6 years ago, I went from being overweight, broke down, and depressed to losing over 50 pounds in 8 months. And in this video, I am going to take you through the key steps that I took to get there. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Asia and I am a women's health and fitness coach. And here on this channel, we talk everything fitness, motherhood, and faith. So if you want to stick around, be sure to hit that subscribe button, pull up a chair, girl, and let's get comfortable. Now, before I get into the nitty gritty and walk you through the steps that I took to lose the weight, I'm going to give you a little bit of background, give you some context so you understand where I was at in my life when I weighed my heaviest. So back in 2019, I was about 8 months postpartum with my second son, and I was completely uncomfortable in my body. Prior to my second pregnancy, I was anywhere between 150, 155 pounds, and that's kind of where I stayed most of my adult life. I do have an athletic background. I ran track, played volleyball, so being active and exercising wasn't new to me. I exercised during my first pregnancy, which helped me lose a lot of that weight post-pregnancy at that time. But during this one, I did absolutely nothing, okay? I told myself, I'm going to enjoy this, and my form of enjoyment was going to work, coming home, and sitting on the couch. Now, on top of that, I was working a job that I could not stand. And quite frankly, I was in a marriage that was in complete shambles. So not only am I carrying around this physical weight that I was uncomfortable in, my life had also turned upside down. I was sad, I was lost, I was confused, I was frustrated. So all of that mental and spiritual weight, I was also carrying that. But I got to a point where I knew that it was a matter of life or death if I did not change. Now, I'm not talking about a physical death, obviously. I'm speaking more of a mental and spiritual one, because inside I was literally dying. I knew that it would get to a point that I would no longer recognize the person that was looking back at me in the mirror. And if I wanted to continue to show up for myself, and if I wanted to continue to show up for my children, I had to change. Now, the one thing that I would always run to when I would feel those feelings of sadness and frustration and depression was food. So I knew that that was the first thing that I had to tackle. So this brings me to step number one. I had to reframe my brain and tell myself that food is fuel and not comfort. See, all of those times that we run to food to fill that void that leaves us on empty in those moments, it's a temporary satisfaction. The guilt immediately sets in right after. The sadness didn't go away, the frustration didn't go away, and in fact, you might even feel more uncomfortable after the binge eating, right? Like, I know I did. So I had to learn that food is not the thing that I use for comfort. I had to learn to replace food with something that would actually give me that peace that I was looking for. And to be honest, that was the Word of God. Now, that is a whole other video that I can do, breaking down what that walk for me looks like. But I had to learn how to take my stress, to take my sadness, take those things that were frustrating me, take them to God and not to food. Now, practically what that looks like, I would start to do my grocery shopping and my meal prepping on Sundays. Now, starting off, I did meal prep for like 5 days in a row. But I quickly realized that I was wasting a lot of food by doing that. So instead of meal prepping for 5 days, I prepped my food for at least 3 days. And then by the time I would get to Tuesday or Wednesday, I would find time to make more food for the remaining of the week. I also focused my meals around protein and vegetables. Now, let me be very clear. I did not eliminate carbs, okay? Carbs are not your enemy. Carbs are not bad. We need them. They are a good source of energy. But the bulk of my nutrition came from protein, vegetables, fruits, and other micronutrients. Now, I did make some mistakes in the beginning with my food. I was very restrictive in other ways. I cut out dairy, alcohol, sugar, anything that I labeled as bad in my brain, pizza, burgers, fries, wings, you name it, right? I cut it all out. But the thing that happens when you do that, that can lead you down a cycle of binge eating. You do good Monday through Friday, and then the weekend comes, and now you're consuming all of those bad foods, right? On the other side of that, now food has become a reward system, and that isn't good either. So the key here is finding the balance. You can have the food that you love, but in moderation, right? Make healthy swaps. Use less oils, less butters, less creams. Find meal dishes that are smaller in size to help you with portion control. Balance is the key to sustainability, not detoxes, not 30-day or 14-day fast. Balance. Once I got my nutrition under control, I knew that exercise was the next step. I had to include activity in some way back into my routine. Now, if you go to my Instagram page today, what you see me doing now is not how I started, okay? Even though I have an athletic background, you got to remember, I'm still in this body that was very foreign to me, right? I was very uncomfortable. So going to the gym and working out was not on my radar whatsoever. And also, I had been so far removed from that world, right? I was really starting back at square one. So that brings me to step number 2. I had to make a plan. Now, in the beginning, that plan was just walking. I would choose 2 days a week, put my baby in the stroller, and I would go down to the park that's nearby my home and walk that entire path, which was about a mile or so. Once I did that consistently for about 4 to 6 weeks, now I'm adding on another layer of doing home workouts. So I would come right here on YouTube, find workouts that were about 20 to 30 minutes, and I would do that twice a week on top of my walking. So I was slowly building upon my consistency. I didn't throw myself headfirst into the deep end trying to do a bunch of things. I made a plan that worked in my life and that I knew that I can stick to. So eventually, after 4 to 5 months of being consistent with the walking and consistent with working out at home, now I've built up enough discipline and enough confidence so I can go to the gym. That's the key that I want you to walk away with. I know it's easy to see all of these workouts and all of the things that people are doing on social media, and you think that's what you have to do in order to see results. But I am telling you, it is okay to start where you are. Because if you set your sights too high, then it's going to be easy for you to not stick to it because it's going to feel overwhelming. It's going to feel foreign. It's going to feel like this is too much for me right now, because it might be. It's okay to start small. If walking is all you can do right now, be consistent with that walking for a month and start there. If working out at home and watching YouTube videos is the only thing that you can do right now, do that twice a week, but be consistent with that for 6 to 8 weeks and build upon that consistency, then take the next step. Now, I'll be honest, there were days that I did not want to do anything, okay? There were days that I didn't want to show up and work out because I simply just didn't feel like it. And that brings me to step number 3. I had to learn how to stick to the plan and not my feelings. See, there is a fine line between listening to your body, understanding what your body needs at that time, which may be rest. But on the flip side of that, there's giving into those feelings of doubt, giving into those feelings of fear, those feelings of complacency, allowing them to take over and masking that as protection. Think about it like this. Your ability to stick to the plan, it doesn't just come from discipline, it comes from obedience. In the Bible, the Israelites were left in the wilderness for 40 years. 40 years because they could not remain obedient to what God's word was for them. They gave into their fear. They gave into their doubt. They started to question things, and they were stuck in that place for 40 years. So I want you to look at your health journey as a season, as the wilderness season, right? That plan that has been put into place, that nudge that God has put on your heart to move, you have to be obedient to that. Because what you risk by not doing so is being stuck in that wilderness season, being stuck there over and over and continuing the cycle of start and stop. Now, I know we would all love to look at this journey and have high hopes and believe that it's a straight shot to the mountaintop, right? There's only a upward trajectory that you can go. But unfortunately, that is not the case, right? There are going to be peaks and valleys. You are going to have highs and lows. That brings me to the last and final step, which I believe is the most important. Give yourself some grace. You will make mistakes on this journey. That is a fact. There is no avoiding that. You will stumble on this journey. That is a fact. There is no avoiding that. Trust me, I have made my share of mistakes and I've had my share of stumbles. But having a perfectionist mindset, expecting everything is going to go exactly to the plan that you have laid out in your mind, you are setting yourself up for failure. Because if it doesn't go that way, now you've given up. So having this all or nothing mindset doesn't serve you. I want you to allow space for the hiccups, allow space for the mistakes. And instead of giving up and feeling defeated, I want you to look at the mistakes that you made, or look at the thing that, went wrong, or whatever the case is. Look at those things, assess the issues, and come back to it. Most of us here are either in some type of corporate setting or you run a business. So this is what we do. We come up with systems and we learn how to be more efficient. And so that is what I want you to do along this journey. When those mistakes happen, when those things come up, look at it, assess the data, assess the situation, and figure out how you can show up tomorrow and do things differently. Don't give up, but make the adjustments. I hope this video helped. I hope this gave you some insight, maybe a different perspective on how to tackle the journey that you're currently on. Yes, the practical things, eating in a calorie deficit, working out more, getting more steps, those things are important. But a lot of the times, the things that hold us back from seeing the results is our mindset. How do we view ourselves? How do we view this walk that we're on? And so that is what I wanted to share with you today. Let me know in the comments which step resonated with you the most. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and come back next week, because I'm going to be giving you a week of workouts and what that looks like in my life through single motherhood, running a business, being a content creator, and how I'm able to fit that all in. So be sure to come back for that video. And as always, love you.